In 2006, a strange virus started circulating on Japanese file-sharing websites, Trojan.Haradong. This Trojan horse was officially logged by Symantec, an antivirus and data management software company, on June 19th. It appears to have been disguised as various movies with the .avi file extension. When the virus was executed, the first thing it would do was create two text files. The first file contained a message, threatening the reader to come to an address and apologize or risk having their computer self-destruct. The second file contained the computer's name and IP address. This file was sent to a file transfer protocol, or FTP, server, which downloaded a file named Harada.avi that was played automatically using Windows Media Player. This file displayed an image of someone apparently named Harada. The virus then proceeded to delete as many media files as it could with commonly used file extensions, from JPEG and WMV to text and MP3. The last thing it would do is delete files related to internet browsers and antivirus software. The origins of the virus also seem to start on peer-to-peer file sharing sites. Some people decided to upload tools that made creating viruses extremely easy, and Trojan.Haradong appeared to be one of them. But Trojan.Haradong wasn't what the virus was being called online. Instead, it was named after the person who showed up on the screens of every infected PC, and was commonly referred to as the Harada virus. The next month, a new strain of the virus was infecting PCs. Trend Micro, a cybersecurity company, officially logged several new Trojan horses, Haradong.A, and several variants of Denutaro. These viruses behaved very similarly to the Harada virus, but had some new features. Haradong-A and some Denutaro variants would show pictures from the popular anime The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. These new strains were also more effective at deleting media from people's hard drives, having added several new file types to their list of potential targets. While things appeared to settle down for the rest of the year, they picked back up at the beginning of 2007. In February, a virus was specifically distributed on the infamous file-sharing site Winnie, whose creator, Osamu Kaneko, was currently appealing a conviction for helping others violate copyright laws. This virus, Trojan.Pyrames, and its variants, disguised itself as a screensaver on the site. Once it was downloaded and executed, an image ripped from the popular game and anime series Kanon would be displayed. Each image contained a warning to the reader to stop using file-sharing sites like Winnie. The virus would then replace every file with text, JPEG, and zip extensions, as well as files with no extensions at all, with these images. After that task was completed, it proceeded to delete everything located in the computer's program files folder. As mentioned earlier, people suspected that these kind of viruses were made by tools distributed on peer-to-peer websites, but they didn't know which one. When they got their hands on the virus, Symantec discovered that the Pyrames virus was created using Hacktool Destroyer B, also known as Peer-to-Peer Destroyer Pro. This virus creation tool made it easy to create viruses that deleted files from infected computers, and people began to suspect that this was the tool used to create the Harada virus and its variants. Speaking of the Harada virus, another variant, Trojan.Haradong B, started making its way onto the internet at about the same time. It only took a few months for another variant, Haradong C, to pop up. This variant also behaved slightly differently. First, it would replace all files shared on a network with copies of itself. While it was running, a window featuring Lucky Star would appear on the screen, and it couldn't be closed or moved. It would also turn all executable files into bitmap files featuring the same Lucky Star image that you couldn't get rid of. 2007 came to an end with a few smaller outbreaks that don't appear to have received much attention, and there aren't many specific details available. In November, some computers appeared to be infected with a similar virus, but the featured images were different. Instead of Lucky Star, Haruhi, or Kanon, the owners of these infected computers would see pictures of Clannad. But despite not being as widely covered as previous incidents, this is when everything started to change. On January 24, 2008, Japan's Association of Copyright for Computer Software, or ACCS, released a statement. The Kyoto Prefectural Police Department had arrested 3 men for, quote, allegedly uploading and transmitting TV broadcasts of anime programs without permission from the rights holders via the file exchange software Winnie, end quote. All 3 suspects were arrested on the same day, and according to the ACCS statement, they had all confessed to the crimes that they were charged with. But they weren't all charged with the same crimes. The first 2 suspects, male A and male B, were arrested for uploading anime episodes to Winnie. Male C, on the other hand, was arrested for something more interesting. The 24-year-old graduate student from the Osaka Prefecture was arrested for distributing copyrighted images of Clannad through a computer virus. Male C was quickly identified as Masato Nakatsuchi, a graduate student at Osaka Electrocommunication University. In addition to creating the Harada virus, he was also suspected of having developed and distributed the program used to create the virus in the first place. The apparent goal of the tool was to stop illegal activity on file-sharing sites, which would explain the Peer-to-Peer Destroyer Pro name. The Harada virus had become fairly widespread by this point. There were over 100 variants, and it apparently managed to infect computers outside of Japan, with the police discovering that at least 5,500 computers had been compromised. With everything that he's been accused of and admitted to, you may be wondering why the first person in Japan to be arrested for creating a virus is only being charged with copyright infringement. That's because, at the time of his arrest, nothing else that he did was actually illegal. While the Japanese government had been working on getting laws related to cybercrime passed, nothing was officially on the books yet. According to Internet Watch, quote, In 2004, a bill to amend the Penal Code to punish the act of creating computer viruses with the intent of having others execute them was submitted to the Diet, along with a bill to create the crime of conspiracy, but it is still being discussed. For this reason, there is currently no law that directly criminalizes the act of creating a virus, and the man in this case was arrested on suspicion of violating the Copyright Act." End quote. Things only got worse for Masato Nakatsuji on February 15th, when he was charged with another crime, defamation. Remember the pictures and address associated with the original Harada virus? Those belonged to one of Nakatsuji's classmates. Apparently, in 2005, he posted the pictures to Winnie to mess with him, but eventually decided to incorporate them into the virus he was working on in order to make it more popular. The defamation suit was being brought against him because, since his face and address were all over it, people assumed that his classmate had created it. But that wasn't it. Just before he released the Clannad viruses that got him arrested, he released another batch of viruses that contained his classmate's name, face, and address. He also showed this kind of information to a seemingly random employee in Nagoya. As for how Nakatsuji was related to the other two people he was arrested with, Shoji Sakai, male A, and Katsuhisa Ikima, male B, it was pretty straightforward. He was using their alias. When he posted some viruses online, he would use the name Trip, which was the name that Sakai and Ikima used when they were posting anime episodes. This allowed him to disguise his appearance online, pin the blame on someone else, and potentially trick more users into downloading the virus. Things unraveled fairly quickly after Nakatsuji received his second charge. When he appeared in the Kyoto District Court on March 18th, he admitted to creating the virus and using copyrighted images. However, the defense argued that the virus wasn't all that harmful and that he shouldn't be punished for distributing the virus because it wasn't actually illegal. These arguments don't appear to have been very persuasive, since Masato Nakatsuji was found guilty of defamation and copyright infringement on May 16th. Judge Shibata Atsushi addressed a courthouse filled with reporters and television cameras and said, quote, "This crime was intended to make the virus he created famous. There is no room for leniency, but he has vowed not to release any viruses in the future." End quote. Nakatsuji was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 3 years of probation, and the sentence didn't take the creation and distribution of the virus into account. When asked, Nakatsuji's lawyer said that he didn't plan on appealing the decision. Nakatsuji was commended for expressing remorse and vowed never to use Winnie or create viruses ever again. But he decided to create viruses and distribute them on Winnie again. On August 4, 2010, while he was still on probation for his previous conviction, he was arrested for creating the Ikatako or squid octopus virus and spreading it over Winnie. The virus started spreading on file sharing sites during the summer of 2009, and it managed to infect somewhere between 20,000 and 50,000 computers before Nakatsuji was arrested. The virus functioned in a similar way to later Harada variants. Once a computer was infected, it would override files with pictures. But this time, instead of using pictures of another person or screenshots from an anime, the files would be replaced with stylized pictures of various sea creatures. Apparently, he decided to use these pictures because he thought that would make his virus completely legal. Even though it had been years since his previous case, there was still no law criminalizing the creation and distribution of viruses. And since he created these pictures himself, he wouldn't be violating anyone's copyright. The problem was, like last time, they didn't arrest him for the virus itself, but something directly related to it. In the first case, it was copyright infringement caused by distributing copyrighted material within the virus. This time, it was property damage. Because the overwritten files would be difficult, if not impossible, to recover, it was considered property damage. Masato Nakatsuji's trial concluded in July of 2011 in the Tokyo District Court, the same month that the amended penal code that criminalized viruses finally went into effect. Nakatsuji's defense argued that since only the data, not the physical hard drive, was damaged, he shouldn't be charged with property damage. But the judge, Masaru Okube, didn't agree. According to Okube, a hard drive has two essential functions, the ability to read and write data at any given time, and since both of those functions were damaged, the crime of property damage had been established. The judge described the crime as, quote, "an ingenious, planned crime to spread a computer virus over a long period of time," end quote. And Nakatsuji wasn't going to receive a suspended sentence because, quote, "the defendant committed the crime while he was on probation for a similar charge. I have no choice but to give him a sentence without suspension," end quote. Masato Nakatsuji was then sentenced to 2 years and 6 months in prison. But things didn't end there. Unlike last time, Nakatsuji decided to appeal the ruling, and the case was sent to the Tokyo High Court. Again, their main defense was that there was no physical property damage, with Nakatsuji stating, quote, "I only rendered the data unusable. I did not destroy the hard drive," end quote. But the new judge, Masaki Wakahara, wasn't any more receptive to this defense. However, after his mother said that she would aid in his rehabilitation, the judge decided to reduce his sentence. Instead of spending 2 years and 6 months in prison, Masato Nakatsuji would be spending 2 years and 4 months in prison. And that concludes the story of the anime deleting virus.